In the narrow waters of Hormuz, this capability becomes especially significant against Iran's swarm of small attack boats. Recent reports suggest increased A-10 deployments in the region, enhancing persistent low-altitude patrols and strengthening U.S. pressure over Iranian naval movements in this highly volatile choke point. The main threat comes from Iranian ballistic missile systems hidden in fortified mountain bunkers. To counter this, the U.S. relies on strategic bombers like the B-52 Stratofortress and B-1B Lancer, reportedly operating from RAF Fairford. These long-range aircraft are designed for deep strikes against hardened underground military infrastructure. From a tactical standpoint, the U.S. relies on integrated air superiority, anchored by stealth platforms like the F-35 Lightning II and advanced electronic warfare to detect, disrupt, and neutralize Iranian missile launches and drone swarms before they can be fully executed. In theory, coordinated targeting and rapid kill chain responses could significantly reduce Iran's ability to mass fire from exposed positions. However, Iran's strategy is built around survivability and saturation. Even with degraded systems, its remaining ballistic missiles and low-cost drones can still be launched in large, coordinated waves designed to overwhelm defenses through volume rather than precision. This creates a persistent risk that a single cruise missile or kamikaze drone could evade interception and strike a high-value naval asset in the confined waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Underwater, AI-powered autonomous vehicles are engaged in a silent struggle to detect and clear Iranian naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz. This ongoing contest between advanced technology and dispersed mine networks highlights growing maritime risk. The U.S. aims to restore secure shipping lanes for oil and cargo, despite persistent threats. At present, the escalating tensions have already begun to reshape maritime behavior in real time. Large crude carriers such as the Mombasa B and Ayos Venurios 1, transporting millions of barrels of oil, are altering their routes to avoid becoming entangled in the expanding zone of military risk. Many vessels are now diverting toward the comparatively safer waters of the Gulf of Oman. Recent statements from Donald Trump have further signaled the trajectory of the unfolding situation, reinforcing perceptions of heightened instability. Donald Trump made a striking statement, claiming that a significant number of vessels are reversing course and heading toward the United States to purchase oil. He added that American energy reserves are being actively utilized, referring to what he described as the sweetest, highest quality gas being supplied through domestic channels. Earlier this week, concerns intensified after calls emerged for Iran to refrain from imposing transit fees on oil tankers navigating the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway that has seen severe disruption to maritime traffic since the onset of the conflict, widely described as one of the most significant shocks to global energy flows in recent history. In the aftermath of the strait's partial closure, crude oil markets have reacted sharply, with prices climbing and volatility increasing across global benchmarks. U.S. crude has recently traded at a premium compared to Brent, reflecting heightened regional risk and supply uncertainty, with West Texas Intermediate settling at $96.57 per barrel, while Brent closed at $95.20. Commenting on the broader market impact, Jake Dollarhide of Longbow Asset Management noted that while he could not confirm reports of tankers redirecting toward the United States, the ongoing instability in the Strait of Hormuz is likely to strengthen demand for U.S. crude in global energy markets. He stated that U.S. oil production has significantly increased over the past decade. He warned that instability in the Strait of Hormuz, even with peace talks, could take months to resolve. This prolonged disruption may boost global demand for U.S. crude, though tanker rerouting remains uncertain. If one looks beyond the immediate political narrative, a deeper layer of the geopolitical chessboard begins to emerge. In this broader structure, the most consequential pressure point is not solely Iran under sanctions, but the growing energy dependency of China. According to 2025 market data from analytics firm Kepler, China has become the dominant buyer of Iranian crude oil, purchasing over 80% of Iran's seaborne exports. On average, China imported around 1.38 million barrels per day of Iranian oil, making up roughly 13% of its total maritime crude imports. China, as a major manufacturing hub, relies heavily on crude oil imports, with a significant share reportedly sourced from Iran. Much of this trade operates through sanction-evading channels outside Western financial systems. Transactions are increasingly settled in yuan instead of the US dollar, signaling a shift toward alternative global energy payment networks. Nearly 50% of China's crude oil imports pass through the Strait of Hormuz, making it a critical energy choke point. The corridor is heavily influenced by U.S. naval presence, adding strategic pressure on supply routes. If access to discounted Iranian oil is disrupted, China may be forced to rely on costlier alternatives tied to U.S. allies. This would increase dependence on dollar-based transactions through SWIFT, potentially weakening Beijing's long-term strategy to expand yuan-based trade and reduce reliance on the Western financial system. A far more severe escalation could emerge if China rejects the evolving constraints and directs a large commercial tanker into the contested waters of the Strait of Hormuz in an attempt to challenge the blockade. Such an action would instantly elevate tensions to a critical threshold, forcing the world to confront a deeply sensitive question of maritime enforcement. If the United States Navy attempts to intercept or board a Chinese-flagged merchant vessel operating in international waters, it could be interpreted by Beijing as a direct violation of sovereignty. In such a scenario, what begins as a maritime enforcement operation could rapidly transform into a major geopolitical crisis with far-reaching consequences. The central question now is whether the United States can realistically sustain a full-scale blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and effectively disrupt the critical energy flows that sustain China's industrial economy. Alternatively, the outcome may hinge on a far more complex equation, where Iran's asymmetric warfare capabilities and China's immense global economic leverage